This is an anecdote to racist comments. Okay, so I'll tell you a story of what happened to me when I was 14 years old and kind of what I did and how it was very effective in my life. When I was 14, I was in the photography class and I was learning how to become a photographer. The first day in class, I encountered a white racist skinhead looking directly at me, and as I passed him by, he made monkey noises at me. Loud, too. And when I looked at him, he obviously was grinning mischievously, and he made those monkey noises directly to my face. Now, what do you think I did? I ignored him. I turned around, walked back to my desk, and continued with my work. That riled him a little bit because he thought he was going to get a reaction from me. So the next day, he did it again. Again, I ignored him. And then the next day, he did it. I ignored him. And this went on and on and on for months. And the more I ignored him, the louder he got. And it got to the point to where my teacher in the class figured out what was going on. And she came up to me and she said, we can go to the principal. We can try to figure out how to solve this issue because he's dehumanizing you and he's making you feel like you're less than. And I told her, I says, no, let him keep doing what he's doing. Let him keep making those noises, fine. And she let it happen. Sooner or later, he got the picture and he stopped. And I had a buddy in the class who came up to me and he said, hey, why'd you let him do that? He was pretty much disrespecting you in front of the whole class. And I said, no, he wasn't. And he says, well, why not? I says, okay, let me ask you this, right? Am I a monkey? And then my buddy said, no, you're not a monkey. And I says, okay, so what do monkeys do? And he said, monkeys make noises and they climb in trees and all that stuff. And he said, okay, so who was making the noises, me or him? And he says, he was. And I says, if it acts like a monkey, do you think it is a monkey? And he says, yeah. I says, okay, so who's the monkey? And he said, okay, he's a monkey. And I says, okay, you're saying that he's dehumanizing me, but I'm not the monkey, he's the monkey. So isn't he dehumanizing himself? And then my buddy said, oh, yeah, case closed. He didn't bother me at all. And that is the antidote to racism. If someone is being racist to you and saying comments that are obviously just absurd and don't speak to who you are, you ignore them. You ignore them and you don't pay them any mind. And the more you ignore them, the more they realize that those comments are meaningless and they stop. I hope that works.